Hello all and welcome to this video on L2TP over IPSEC. In an earlier video we covered the basics of L2TP and the focus of that video was to train us all for the OEQ section of the CCI Security Lab. But this video is going to be about this really cool topic called L2TP over IPSEC, which is a configuration item on the CCI Security Lab. So if they ask this, you'll have to configure this between the ASA and the test PC, which is provided on the CCI Security Lab. All right, so let's get right in. Just the basics. L2TP over IPSEC is nothing but encapsulating the L2TP packets or the L2TP tunneling packets inside of an IPSEC tunnel. Now usually what happens is the client does connect to an LAC, which in turn connects to the LNS, and the LAC and the LNS establish an L2TP connection, but the client is transparent to the whole thing. With L2TP over IPSEC, it's a little different. In L2TP over IPSEC, we have the client here, and we have the ASA, which is going to be acting as the L2TP network server, and we have the protected network here. Now, for the client to access the protected network, without the presence of an LAC, the client can now directly connect to the ASA and tunnel the L2TP packets through an established IPSEC tunnel. So what the client does is initially it sets up an IPSEC tunnel between itself and the ASA, and then through that it tunnels the L2TP packets. The advantages of this are mainly two. One is the remote user or the client can access the L2TP network or the backbone network or the private network from virtually anywhere on the internet without the need of an LAC. Isn't that cool? And number two, the client does not need any additional software for setting up this L2TP connection or this IPSEC connection. The inbuilt Windows L2TP client, which is present in Windows 2000 and the rest of the flavors, is more than enough for this L2TP over IPSEC tunnel to work. Now that we've got the basics understood, let's get right into the configuration. So for the configuration part, there are two parts in the configuration. One, I'll be configuring the ASA, and the second part, I'll be configuring the L2TP client on my Windows 2003 server virtual machine. Now, Windows 2003 server virtual machine looks and feels a little like Windows XP. My operating system here is Windows 7, and I don't have access to real live equipment, so I simulate all my equipment, or I think the term is emulate. I emulate all my equipment on GNS3, and I was facing some problems with accessing the Windows 7 network from GNS3 and vice versa. I don't know much about Windows 7, so what I did was I just fired up a VM and I've connected to the virtual machine from my GNS3 topology. I'll be showing you the topology very soon. So all I want you to understand is that I'll be configuring the ASA, and I'll be configuring my PC, and I'll be connecting to it either directly or via something else. And through this, between the client and the ASA, I'll be setting up an IPSEC tunnel, and inside that we will be tunneling L2TP packets, which will be useful in negotiating the PPP parameters or the PPP authentication details of the client, and that will in turn authenticate the client to the ASA, and the L2TP connection will come up. So let's jump right into the configuration of the ASA, and the next screen you'll be seeing is the CLI. I've gone ahead and already done the configuration to make the video a little short. I'll be going through the configuration line by line and explaining them to you. It's pretty simple. It's very simple to the remote access VPN configuration on the ASA. So you should follow along pretty quickly. See you there. Alright, we're back, and As you can see, we're right now in global configuration mode, and as I told you, I've already configured the L2TP over IPSEC on the ASA, and let's just go through the configuration items line by line. First, as part majority of the configuration is the same as say a remote access VPN or an easy VPN. There are a couple of changes, but they're very minimal, and we'll be going through them one by one as we go along. So first, as in any VPN, you need to configure the IPSEC policy or the IPFACE1 policy. So we can see that by showing the show run crypto IPSEC command. And as you can see here, I've configured the IPSEC policy, authentication pre-shared, and I've configured the encryption hash and the group, and a default lifetime of 86,400 seconds, and I've enabled crypto IPSEC on the outside. You know what? I just realized I haven't shown you the network diagram yet. So hold on for a second. Let me quickly fire that up for you. Alright, there you go. So here you can see my network topology, and I'll be going through it line by line. This cloud here is my PC, or this is my Windows server PC 2003. This router here is not necessary. I just connected it because I was doing some other testing. So this can or cannot be there, that's not a problem. All I'm worried about is the PC and the ASA. This is going to act as the LNS for the L2TP connection. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be setting up an IPSEC tunnel between the PC and the ASA, and I'm going to be forwarding all the L2TP traffic between the PC and the ASA through the internet. This is going to simulate our internet, and the PC is going to be sending all the L2TP traffic to the ASA, and I should be having access to this R1 network from here. Alright, there is this small problem in this topology. You can see that 10.1.1.0 is repeated twice, but that's actually wrong. This is the 10.1.1.0 network, and this is the 40.1.1.0 network. You know what? Let me just change that for you. Okay, now that we saw the network diagram, let's just to verify, let me just show you the access list which I've configured, and you'll be seeing the same thing here. It says access list 1 extended permit 40.1.1.0 any. That is our private network, and I'm only specifying traffic sent to this private network to be encrypted by this tunnel. Now we have taken a look into default group policy. We've taken a look into tunnel group, and one command that you haven't seen here, which I've entered but it's not visible here, is the VPN tunnel protocol. If you can see here, let me just show you that command. Okay, VPN tunnel protocol. When we configure IPSEC remote access tunnels, we by default specify the tunnel protocol as IPSEC. But when specifying L2TP, there's a small change. We must enter the protocol as IPSEC and L2TP over IPSEC. Now, okay, I'm going to admit one thing to you. I don't know why we're using IPSEC here. I know why we're using L2TP over IPSEC. That's basically instructing our group policy to use L2TP over IPSEC for the VPN tunnel, but it doesn't work unless I add in the IPSEC keyword too. I don't know if, to me it doesn't make any sense, but the Cisco documentation also says that you have to do it this way for Windows XP or Windows 2003 server L2TP clients to work. I have asked this question on the OSL mailing list. Hopefully someone will reply, maybe someone who's configured this before, or generally who has an idea about how it is, but I don't know about it. But once I know, I'll post about it on the website so you can follow up on that. So now we've taken a look at almost all of the configuration items. Let's recap. We had a look at the crypto IPSEC policy. We had a look at the IPFACE2 or the IPSEC policies. We had a look at the tunnel groups. We also had a look at the group policies. Now there are only two things which are pretty standard. We need to have a look at the dynamic map, which is pretty standard. All I'm doing is I'm setting the transform set as VPN trans, and I'm ensuring that a route for the new peer is already added to my routing table, which I can redistribute later in a routing protocol. Next, after dynamic map, we'll be configuring the crypto map and applying it on the outside interface. So that does it. That is our crypto or IPSEC configuration on the ASA. Now there's one additional step here. If you remember correctly, I had specified the authentication server group as local. That means the ASA, upon receiving the client's credentials, will look to its local database to authenticate it. So I have to configure the username and password, which is going to be used by the client to connect locally on the ASA. So if you look at the username and password, you'll notice a small difference here. The difference which you can see here, okay, I have configured two usernames. One is TACAC and YPUF. The difference which you can see here is the username has this keyword called NT encrypted at the end. What this does is it tells the ASA that this username should be used only for L2TP connections. So for specifying these usernames, I'll be using the syntax username, say password of username Cisco, password of everybody's favorite password Cisco, and I'm going to be using MSCHAP. MSCHAP is, as you can see here, it says that the password will be converted to Unicode and hashed using MD5. This is the way that it will work with MSCHAP v1 and MSCHAP v2. We want to be using that because otherwise, if you're using MSCHAP v1 in the client, we won't be able to authenticate even if we configure the username and password here. It won't work until you specify the MSCHAP keyword. Alright, now that we have done that, let's head right into the client configuration. We've already finished the ASA side. Let's head into the client configuration. Alright, what you can see here is a VM which emulates the Windows 2003 server, and I have basic connectivity to the firewall. Let me just show you that I have connectivity by opening a ping. Say ping, what is the IP address of the firewall? 10.1.1.12. Oh no, that's the IP of the gateway. So the IP address of the firewall is ping 30.1.1.12. Uh-oh. Let me just have a look here. If I can quickly open up my topology, 30.1.1.10. Okay, let's try pinging that. Ping 30.1.1.10. Alright, there you go. So I have connectivity between the VM and the VM is going to be acting as my L2TP client, and the ASA is going to be acting as the LNS. So now let's configure the network settings which we need to configure here in order for the L2TP over IPSEC tunnel to work. Now, as you can see here, I've already configured it, so I'm going to be taking you through step by step of how to configure it all over again. Now, let's go to Start and Connect and show all connections. Once you get here, we have to create a new network using the new connection wizard. Click on New,